Hello, everyone. Abba sometimes doesn't allow me to go on live when my ego is trying to run the show. And what I was gonna post before was something that it was not me. So I guess that's why he cut off the connection. So I deleted the video. Because when we're transforming, we have to allow ourselves a moment to sit with that energy and understand where it comes from. And while I was in meditation, contemplating the reason why he would had me stop doing what I was doing, I understood that the law of cause and effect was in play. It was clear. So I asked him, what do you want me to speak about? I always do that for my posts, for everything I do. Because having PTSD triggers me sometimes to just not think and act. And that becomes a reaction. So I had to learn to wind down, sit with the thought, allow Abba to clear the mind, allow the ego to understand they're not in control, so I can actually deliver the message. And the message is the book of 1 Kings 3, KJV version. So I asked the system, what is the meaning of this chapter? And it says, King Solomon's humble request for divine wisdom to govern Israel rather than selfish gain, leading with wisdom, riches, and honor. Establish how Simon's early reign, featuring his dream at Gibeon and the famous judgment of the two mothers. This is from AI Overview in Google. This is not directly from KJV because I'm not reading the chapter. It's too long. If you want to read it, go ahead and read it on your own. When I started this journey, the Battle of Love, the Awakening, I was given a set of instructions. Number 1, peeling the onion. That's where you start going through the fragile parts of your layers and then start going in. Number 2, it was defragmenting the hard disk, which is the mind. And then at one point, I had to stop because I was unbalanced. I had discovered that I had PTSD. And I took it upon myself to heal with the powers of love and energy that the Christ energy gives us. In my journey, I started posting the roller coaster of emotions because I wanted Abba to give me the blueprint so I can help others walk the path at their own time. And it's beautiful how Abba helped me understand not only where others were at, but where I was at, so I can stay sovereign in my energy, sovereign in knowing who I am, and allowed to dissolve the chains that were holding me back from experiencing true unconditional love. I'm not saying with partnership, but with myself. Why I say this, I was very hard on myself. So I ended up at times taking the fault or the blame for people for things that other people did, and vice versa, right? It's a two-way story. It's not a one-sided story. I was able to discover the wounds in me that needed healing, and I was able to see who was projecting and who wasn't. This gives me the ability as a healer to understand where people are at in a certain place in life, where I can assist them based on their free will to overcome any circumstance in life. The reason why this hits hard is because that was my original request. I said, Abba, I want to start the battle of love, the awakening, so people can understand unconditional love, because the church needs restoring, and that was a prophecy that was coming and coming and coming and coming. And I visited different temples to try to see what the main common ground was where indoctrination stopped the church from learning the true walk of Christ. Obviously, I was also doing things that were not right because I was still living in duality. But as soon as that veil lifted, another veil came up. And as I went through the veils and as I went through the chambers, I discovered something beautiful that has nothing to do with modernism. It has a lot to do with the original teachings of Jesus. So this walk has been amazing, and I have no regrets, because standing in my sovereignty means that I don't care who I was yesterday, not because I'm dismissive, not because I'm not accountable of who I am, but because I stopped caring to try to make amends, as I say, when you want to try to solve situations in places where I was never received with an open heart. I was seen as weak and judged, and I get it. I was not acting on my better self, but who is, right? It would be impossible for everyone to keep every circumstance. But I started to see the duality within people that said they were healed, but like me, they were sharing half of a truth and make that truth their version of the world and perception of others. And they have been indoctrinated and teaching others based on their degrees things that are not correct. So I asked Abba, give me the wisdom. Allow me to see the truth, not from my ego, but from my heart. And I started a pilgrimage. When Abba isolates you, it means you go in hermit mode. He just not only wants you to find yourself, but to remember who you are. He wants you to understand that silence and aloneness is not solitude or loneliness. He wants you to understand your worth so you don't play it small. He wants you to understand the difference between spiritual ego and true knowledge. He wants you to understand the difference between right and wrong, not in the way that go opposites way, but cause and effect kind of way. That brought a very nice lesson where my teaching ways were ways that were not up to the role that he wants the ministers, the pastors, and the prophets to use to welcome the church, because it comes into a point that it becomes indoctrination and conditioned love. And an interaction like that only takes, it doesn't give. When you go through experiences in life that are hard, like the ones that I've been going through in life, there's two things. Life is always going to put you tests, and every test is just to straighten your abilities, their gifts of the spirit. I've noticed that recently a lot of people from my past are just popping back up, and I see them where they are in life, spiritually speaking, and they are still in the same place. Victim standpoint, everybody else is the culprit. They didn't do nothing. And I was there too. So I cannot see them with judgmental eyes, because we all go through that. So something that is very disturbing is when a minister, a pastor, a pope, or whatever, or even your friends that think that they have gone through an ascension, act and look down at you because you're not in the same frequency. That is not love. That is not being sovereign. The true meaning of being sovereign is I am standing in my energy, and whatever anyone else says about me doesn't affect my energy for me to deviate and move left and right from that center. It's not the same. And there's a lot of spiritualists out there teaching people, oh, yeah, because of this or because of that. And I understand it. You are the people you surround yourself with. When you're an empath, you want to help others. And that's why you have that mentality that you have to be the hero and save somebody. You don't. Save yourself. Save yourself, because in the moment you save yourself, you actually get the grounding that you need, the openness of the heart that you actually desire, and the certainty of knowing who you are. So when somebody comes and says something that is supposed to hurt you, you can take a deep breath and say, I know that's coming from your hurt heart, not from who I am. I know that's coming because I'm reflecting a shadow of you that you don't like. But also, if you see a projection or a mirror in front of you that is making your body feel like it's discomfort, then that is something you need to work with. There's two types of energies. There's an energy that is inviting, and there's an energy that rejects. When somebody is not in the right vibration and you're in a higher level of vibration that they are, you get this nudge. I read energies from a very early age. I never read a tarot deck to help people. I do have them. I don't use them. Why? Because you don't need a card to tell you the energy. You need to be still and know energy. Totally two different things. But what sells is having the cards at play so people feel identify with divination. And that is where I don't condone it. Because I can use the cards to find guidance for myself. But when I do a general read on someone else, that can give them a false sense of hope. Why I say this, I studied other tarot readers because I am one myself. And I understood that their interpretation of the cards is genuinely type of interpretation that comes from that need for them to heal and help others. There are some people that do it with a good heart and good messages comes out. Other people that do it for money, and they're getting away with getting people in a cycle where all they can do is consume this type of reads. I fall into that game while I was doing my study, and I noticed that I was doing it with a curious mentality of understanding who's a true reader and who's not. Not because I wanted to say anything about them. That's not my game. I wanted to understand where they thought or believed they were interpreting the cards. And there's a lot of good intuitive readers. Don't get me wrong, no judgment. But there are others that don't understand intuition because they're concentrated and focused in the cards. So, with that study, I also learned about energetic fields that take advantage of people vibrating in lower vibrations. And the reason why they do this is because they need to keep the light alive for them to be alive. And that's what people call vampire and energy vampires. When someone consumes your time, they become themselves energy vampires. When someone is always negative, they become energy vampires because at the moment that you open your ears to listen to all the negativity, then if you are not sovereign in your energy, you're going to absorb that. And that's very important for the empaths to understand because I went through it and it's a little bit difficult to get out of there if you don't know the different veils or chambers that you have to work with. Because it's a connection in between body, mind, and soul. It's a trinity. When I see Kings 3, 1 Kings 3 of the KJV version, it reminded me. Oh, sorry. I'm not hungry. I'm not sleepy. I'm sleepy. It reminded me of I humbly ask Abba, consciousness. I want to know how to help others without allowing myself to lose myself and entangle my energy with them. And little by little, I went through the motions of the emotions so I can understand how to be there, how long it takes, or what to do to get out. Because there's a lot of ignorance in this world. And it's a type of ignorance that comes with greed, comes with attachments, and we all have attachment styles that we need to work. Mine was an anxious attachment where I felt that if somebody didn't reply back, they were harmed. It wasn't that I wanted them there. It wasn't that part of the, I would say, projection. For me, if somebody didn't answer back, I thought they were injured because of a bad experience I had when I was little. So when I detached that, I don't need it anymore. I don't need that. validation. Sorry. I don't need that validation. I don't need that recognition. I don't need that person to focus or be present at all times for me to understand who that person is in my life. So I'm not talking of a specific person, I'm talking in general, because when you heal a trauma, you have to see those two sides of the row. It's not only one side, there's two sides of the row in every trauma that you heal. So the reason why we're here and we're doing this open as Abba allows us to go into this space, I want you to picture this. You are a rock, right? Peter is a rock. And I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, so bear with me because you're going to understand what I'm saying. But Peter also had shadow traits. He doubted. And that's a human experience because we are not open and aware of our divine presence. But Jesus never criticized or judged Peter for his shadows or his light, but he embraced his light and showed him how to see beyond the veil. So his faith was not intermittent, his hope was real, and whatever he did came from the heart. We do understand that he had some envy because I know that I think it was in the Last Supper or somewhere around there at one point in the story, he claimed that he felt that Mary had more pull for saying, right? So Peter still had his shadows, but his conviction was to live within the path and the journey of the light. So instead of seeing his shadows as something bad, I see the story of Jesus teaching them how to sit with your shadow, understand it with the parables and the things he told them, and allow them to, when the knowledge is available for them, to be actually turned into wisdom to do it. So I always talk about the pillars, and the pillars are pillars in the spiritual community. They're pillars in the Bible. There's pillars everywhere. Pillars is what holds a structure, and the armor of God is based on structure. So even though we're not religious, we're spiritual. The armor of God is your body. The trinity of the armor comes from your thoughts, comes from your nervous system, and comes from your heart. Why is it all connected? When something comes and attacks you as a form of a mockery, as a form of a criticism, if you're from talking from a wound, you're going to be defensive about it. Why? Because the body reacts faster than the mind. So the body's going to take you to the trauma in 2 split seconds or in 1. And then you're going to automatic activate that alert mode. And when that alert mode is totally turned on, then you become defensive because that's what you learned and that's where the mind comes in. So not only you become defensive, you start seeing something small that triggered you as a ripple effect that start making waves because you start thinking worst case scenario, nothing's going to happen. Then patience goes out the window. Then your gut is not feeling good. You started having cramps in your stomach and whatever, until the whole thing breaks down. You end up crying, having a panic attack, having an anxiety attack, and then you run to the pills, which is the only thing that can help you at that moment to calm what it is. I'm not a doctor, so keep on taking your pills while you learn the spiritual way to heal your body, which is in the Bible, which is a blueprint. Keep on drinking your pills and do not get off of any meds unless your doctor allows you to. And I say this because I conquered that by telling my doctor the truth. Every single pill I was drinking was giving me a side effect that was worse than the condition. So I wanted to learn how to treat the condition so I can actually be sovereign in my own clear mind and allow my body to stop reacting to old patterns and learning new patterns. So with time, my doctor little by little started downloading the dosage until I was able to get completely off of every med and naturally actually regain my sovereignty. But sovereignty doesn't come in 2 days. It is a work, it is a job, it is a path that takes patience. And patience is something that we barely have because we live in a world where everything it's in high speed. And a lot of people think that if they don't run, they're going to stay behind. And honestly, you don't have to run to not stay behind. You know why? You remember that story about the turtle and the rabbit? The turtle won the race, and that is a moral story of patience, of thriving by believing. So when I speak about this, I want you to actually acknowledge if you want something in life, just wanting it, it's not going to get it to you. If you want to heal yourself, just wanting to heal or praying for it, it's not going to do the job. It may lead you to where you can find it with time. But people want a prayer answered the same day. They want the prayer answered the same week. They want the prayer answer next week. They condition the prayer. And that is not prayer because a true prayer has to come from an open and willing, humble heart. Why am I explaining this? Because we have been to think that if we repeat like kids a specific prayer, magic will happen. Magic happens, yes, for those that in their mind believe with no doubt. And we're humans, we have doubts all the time. So, what comes in play here is understanding the laws of the universe, the law of vibration, the law of correspondence, the cause and effect, because words can save people, but also destroy them. So if you hear a word said to you that is not something that you're not, ask yourself, then why am I reacting if I know that is not true? And I was in a point where I knew that. But for some reason, when my triggers came back up to rise again, I started doubting myself because I was triangulated into believing that the people that were around me were people that cared, but they were all in cahoots to make me feel uncomfortable and not confident of who I am. So I regained the truth of who I am. I am a healer, I'm an empath. I have spiritual abilities that other people criticize, but I don't give a care in the world if they like it or not, because I can see things that others cannot see. And the reason why I can see things that others cannot see is because I sit alone with my own energy and transmute it so I can go back home to myself. There's a lot of distractions going on in the world right now. And what you need to understand is there is an imperative change in the world's energy. With this imperative change, a lot of tarot readers are going to tell you that specific cycles of Earth are going to happen, like earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcano eruptions, etc. And it is normal because when the world is going through that, they can feel it. But it's not to instigate fear, it's to warn. In old times, there were three kings that were astrologers, that were the ones that told people to follow the star to find Jesus, right? But with time, that became heretic, that became evil. It's the same with everything in this world, because for them to help you recover yourself or remember who you are, they have to hide the truth. I once spoke in one post that the first thing they took out from our formation was healthy food. After they took healthy food away, they took the liberal arts. They cut the music programs. They cut a lot of things that will allow you to inspire your creativity so you can have not the flight or fight mode, but a creative way to always have something that you can do to see it as a moment in time and not a full circumstance that's going to spiral you. While in my path trying to assist others, I didn't know the difference between pity and compassion. I didn't know that the type of compassion that I was sharing with others wasn't compassion, it was pity. Because I was taught that by the church. Not the church, but let's say the temple. And when the temple showed me that, I became a judge. And when I became a judge, I was out of alignment. So I had to go through my karma in order to clear that. So I don't see myself as ashamed for going through that. I see as Abba being a loving father telling me this is happening for a reason and this is happening for you. So at the beginning, I took everything like, why me? Why the world is so inhumane? Why this? Why that? Why? Like a little kid, because I'm curious. I had questions. I wanted answers. So when he brings 1 Kings 3 today to the experience, I understood that in between his purpose, his mission, and his vision, no one, no one can deter you from your dreams or from your purpose with lies. And if you don't know what a lie is, you need to be aware of who you are so you listen, but not allow your ears to absorb the lie. This happens a lot when you're an empath. You always have that kind heart that you want to help everybody, even if they drag you down. And that doesn't allow you to see who's the envious person in your life. I try to warn people, but they think that I am trying to get something out of them or I'm trying to put them against another. But I don't judge them, because when you think someone is your friend and you're not seeing how bad they are to your experience, you're going to believe the other person is trying to do harm by you, separate you from something. And that's fine. But there are no hierarchies in this world. lives in a hierarchy is living in conditioned love. Whoever allows the spirit to flow through their hearts lives, unconditionally loving others. I drank, like, what did I eat? I'm just trying to think, what did I eat? I had the bariatric surgery. So when I eat, it's like the air goes up and down. Stop. It just goes up and down. And it sounds pretty funny. It sounds like those little toys, then you go with the thing around. So it sounds like I learned not to be ashamed of it. I explain it, I guess, because of habit. I don't need to explain myself, I guess. I've seen people in lives that burp and say, "Oh," and I just look at it and I'm like, "What is that spiritual?" But I'm not criticizing them. It's funny to hear things like that. Try to interpret things. And that's where perception comes to the game. If somebody has a shine in their eyes and a good energy about them, others are going to take their weaknesses for granted. Only and only if they're not suffering in wearing the armor. And the armor is like it's you knowing your body experienced, because every muscle has memory, right? So when a muscle has memory, it's going to remember the trauma. And I spoke about it yesterday, but for some reason it's coming back up today. I don't know who has to hear this. But if you identify with the trauma, you're not going to heal it. So what you have to do is understand your body has a trauma response. And this helps for me, right? I am not a doctor. But spiritually speaking, you see your body, you see the reaction your body had. And when you actually acknowledge that reaction, you say, okay, in the past, you allow me to be in alert mode because I went through this, and that. Don't give it more than that. Say, I acknowledge you. After you acknowledge that energy, transmute it. How you're going to transmute it? Remember a time in life where you felt love. If you never felt love, then hug yourself. Give yourself that experience, because you don't need it from nobody else. It's something that is residing inside of your heart that you don't have to find outside of you. If you don't feel it inside of you, then nobody can love you for who you are, because you're always going to think that there's something wrong with you. You see? It's like when I try to explain this to people, they're so conditioned into conforming, in following the guidance of the indoctrination, cultural behaviors, and political views, that then they start fighting or resisting the ability of truly loving themselves. And since I'm a little kid, I can see this in people. So I tuned down my gifts to fit in, because if I spoke my truth to them, I was rejected. And when I was rejected like a little kid, then I learned to play by myself. I wasn't mad. I wasn't sad. You know what I would do? I would sit down and take the Play-Doh and invent whatever you can imagine. I would just sit down and take pebbles and just put them in order and put them back where they go. I would sit down to see if a flower will bloom in front of me. So I started realizing that nature gives you the calmness that you need. Why? Because the pillars are what they call Mother Mary, which is the loving heart, what they call Mother Gaia, which is the mother of nature, and what they call Sophia, which is the wisdom of the universe that lives inside of you, and what they call the Christ energy. And again, I'm not sure why, if I spoke about this yesterday, it's coming back today, but it might be that you didn't see this video yesterday, and this video is for you. That's the title. This video is for you. Have you ever felt like you don't fit in? I did that. I felt that for a long time. And when I started feeling that and I started to diminishing my light to appease others' complexes, I started creating complexes on my own, not because I felt unworthy, but because in order to not be, I will say, alone at a time, I wanted to be around people because it's an experience that you have to feel with your senses, so it counts. I guess as a little kid, I started becoming friends of adults. So instead of engaging in a conversation with another kid, I will engage in a conversation with an adult, and that will have depth. So it's very difficult for me to date people if they don't have good conversation. Not because I think that I'm more intelligent than anybody else, because, oh my God, I do dumb things like everybody else. And my dumb things are naively dumb. I just say that if I'm speaking with someone and they don't have content and they are ignorant of even their own speaking or what they're saying, I just don't feel that I fit in or that I vibrate in their frequency to engage in a longer conversation. So I used to tend to get bored pretty easy. So I became very creative. I started teaching myself how to cook. I started teaching myself how to do art crafts. I started teaching myself how to do anything. Up to the point that I took a scissor one day and I thought I was Heidi. To laugh. If you guys ever saw those cartoons, it was like a little girl that had like a V shape right here. I took the scissor. I did a V shape because I want to say 80s hair. That's how creative and mischievous I was. And I'm still mischievous, creative, and fun because that's me. And I don't have to dim my light to fit in where people are envious of not seeing how good they are inside. We're not here to fit in. We're not here to boast, but we're here to stand out from those that don't know themselves. Not because we want to be against anyone, just because we have the right to be ourselves, right? And to be yourself, you have to be authentic. And to be authentic, you cannot allow anybody's ideas to become yours. So I tell people, don't believe me, believe your heart. Speak to your heart. Allow your heart to feel. Allow yourself to experience true love. It is everywhere. It's a sensation. It's something that comes with knowing who you are. And sometimes I say I stop myself from going into experiences that I know are not going to end up good, because if the content of the conversation is not something that grabs my attention, I know I'm going to get bored. And I'm not going to go into a relationship with someone that I know is not going to hold ground for me to be curious or for me to explore. So it's very beautiful because attachments start to fall, but the ego, because you don't see yourself better than anyone. You'll just understand that we're not all on the same vibration, and you can still lend a helping hand without getting lost. If you guys like the content, your likes, your shares, your subscribes will help. If you have any questions, you can shoot it in the chat. I am not a know-it-all to say. I will bring it up. So if you have questions, the chat I think is open. If anyone can say at least hi, so I know the chat is open, because for some reason TikTok today had it blocked and I had to open it. But when I put the settings, it said that the chat was open, and I have it right here. Let's see. Oh, I know why now. Thing that says top chat and a chat, and this thing automatically fluctuated to top chat, so that's why the other day I saw like 2 comments. I didn't see them. Oopsie. Didn't I tell you that I'm just winded like everybody else? Well, not everybody's winded, but I am at times. I'm pretty savvy with systems. It's just that when I'm new to something and I haven't explored it that much, it's just something I let the funny part of me just happen. I'm winded at times, so I let it happen. Like, I don't stress about it. I used to stress about many things in my life until I understood the game of life and how to play it. So if you like the content, just stay tuned, because as soon as Abba says something is going to come up, it's going to come up whenever, whatever, and for whoever it has to be. Stay happy, stay blessed, and look at yourself in the mirror, and don't see the reflection about the wounds or about what others said you were. See yourself. You know who you are. You know your heart. So forget about vain words, because when you actually take them in, they become prophecies, and you don't want prophecies like that. Stay away from bad thoughts, because if you don't want a fulfilling prophecy to happen, then you have to allow your thoughts to understand that that's ego. It's not heart. And the heart is wicked when the mind is not in sovereignty. So stay righteous, stay fun, stay happy, stay joyous. Live and love life always. Take care.